Hello, MGTOW. Hello, men. This is Howard Dare. Thanks for stopping by. So, I would like to talk about MGTOW, a safe harbor for men, a refuge in a time of the storm, because that's what MGTOW is. And yet, MGTOW has been presented as some form of hate speech, as some form of hatred towards women. Fascinating, isn't it, how if you, as a man, work to improve yourself, that is seen as a threat to a woman. Understand that. If you, as a man, try to improve yourself, that is seen as a threat to a woman. It really is as if the men are trying to escape slavery and servitude. The idea of allowing women to determine your worth as a man, as a human being, and then having to live that life where that approval is, of course, withheld from you and pulled out from under you at the most inopportune moments. In other words, I'm not operating in a free market system here, okay? If I do the same work as someone else, I won't get the same pay. I suppose women would say, well, and that's justice. I would say, no, that is the perversion of justice. You see, this is really what we're fighting against. It's a false narrative, gynocentrism, feminism, identity politics, playing the victim, playing the oppression card. It's a lie. It's made up. People come in to the public debate in the open market, and this is their starting position. So they want concessions. This isn't a complicated tactic, but it is something that a certain class of person gravitates towards. It's not something that open, fair-minded, intelligent, capable people who are willing to engage in a free and open system, it's not something that they engage in, okay? You know this, they know this, everyone knows this. It's dirty, it's underhanded, it lacks honor, it lacks integrity. Trying to get someone fired because you don't like their political views. This is ideological and political censorship. This is political correctness run amok. Right, so if a working man doesn't agree with multi-billionaires' politics, multi-billionaire politics, destroys the life of low-level working man, okay? I'm a small YouTube channel. There was no reason to shut me down and to censor me like that. There was no reason to heap community guideline strikes upon me. The only reason was to get me to shut up. This is the type of treatment that we're talking about. You know it when it happens to you. And you know that the narrative, the story that the mainstream media puts out there about how evil Trump is, it's a precursor. It's an excuse. It is the moral justification for the treatment, which is going to come after that, which is, the false impeachment, which is the false charges of hate crimes, for going against this progressive social narrative that's made up by the most easily offended amongst us. It's a method to divide and conquer us, and it works. And it empowers the people with the most base instincts, with the least ability. That's what's going on. And you know that's what's going on. And there's no denying that's what's going on. Now let me tell you what we can't allow to happen. Now it's becoming institutionalized. Now it's becoming okay. Now it's becoming codified into law. That if you offend someone's feelings, that this constitutes an actual crime. When it doesn't. It constitutes that individual's subjective feelings that they're trying to use to control other people around them that haven't done anything wrong. So by simply having an opinion that goes counter to the person in power, well, that's a crime, but it's not. And they're going insane. It's, again, the false view. It's the false narrative. It's the false threat narrative. So the billionaire is walking around the CEO of Apple, is walking around and saying that he's got to do everything he can to stop the low-level working classes from speaking their mind about their discontentment concerning globalism. I think I should say that again, okay? The billionaire CEO of Apple, with all of his life choices, has decided that he has to make sure that the low-level working man in Western civilization is not allowed to express his discontent over the destruction of his way of life and should just stop annoying him and shut up. And if we don't, he has to censor us. He has to monitor our speech and then punish us for the speech that doesn't go along with his speech. Because after all, that's how bad it is for him. That's how horrible it is for him, right? This is the false threat narrative. He has to do it. Sorry about that. This is what happens as the false threat narrative confronts reality and it starts to break down. For example, perhaps in France, the yellow vests are just not good enough globalists, Perhaps they just don't care enough about the planet. You should definitely raise their taxes, right? Because they've got so much, and Macron knows they're suffering. So this is what I'm talking about. This lie, this garbage that Western civilization, the institutions, the corrupt politicians have sold to the people of Western civilization through the media, through your accepted values and practices. It's putting one group against another. It's claiming that individuals are not allowed to have their own individual values. Borders, right? Like, hey, you've got a fence around your house, don't you? You've got walls around your home. You've got locks on your doors. Your windows close. Why don't you just let everybody in? And why don't you just set up your whole household as an open welfare state where anybody who comes in can have everything they want? How long do you think you'll be able to survive in that house? Not long, right? This isn't a complicated metaphor. This is a near perfect comparison. So these people who exist within a collective without great merit, without great productivity, this is how they get by. They institute rules and regulations. They find fault with others. This is like a human pathology, okay? You can imagine the hunting party getting ready to go out there and everybody who is incapable of going on to the hunting party, blathering up their excuses as to why they can't go and why the people who can go on the hunting party, if they should find some food, should give it to them who can't go, right? This isn't hard to figure out. Again, this is basic human nature being played out in our social political sphere, of a modern technological society. And it's this clash of worldviews. Now, to suggest that, it's pretty complicated because there's a ruling elite class and there's a puppet class of the ruling elite class. That's our politicians. That's the people who think they're in charge, who are manipulating and destroying these social institutions that the free market has largely created. So that's what's being destroyed all around you. The free, open market and exchange, individual rights, property rights, the idea that you have individual value. That's all being destroyed. That's what they're attacking. That's the basis of Western civilization, based on the strong individual. Why are they attacking it? Because they can't cut it. They want to be in charge. Who knows? They certainly aren't willing to be individual, productive members within that system. That's for sure. So in that mix, the men, the, productive workhorses and, intellectual workhorses as well, they're property. And if they become too intelligent and too expressive and too thoughtful, they become quite dangerous. So here we are, MGTOW, talking about these issues, okay? And it's seen as a great threat. Now, if I was talking about, the latest movies and things like that, that wouldn't be, in calling it MGTOW, that wouldn't be seen as a threat. But if I'm talking about your individual values as a man, your ability to stand on your own, and how this is, one of your foundational supports, and how if you ever speak out, if you ever speak against the king, the ruling power, the CEO billionaire, the interests of the collective group, if you ever speak out, they will take away your foundational means of support if, it's their approval or if they have any control of it. And that's what we're witnessing. And it's not just that it's happening. It's now becoming legal. It's now becoming, this really is the CEO billionaire standing up and saying, we have to do this. We have to monitor your individual speech. And if we don't like it, you're in a lot of trouble. We're coming for you. I don't know. I mean, that's the implication, right? That's what it means. That's what they're doing. Take that how you will. And now it becomes this absurdity. Okay, even the men, saying, wow, we don't have any jobs. We've got a whole bunch of laws against us. We've got a whole bunch of rules and regulations, claiming that they own our earnings. We don't even have enough, for food and to pay rent. This sucks. And they're like, that's hate speech. You need to talk about Trump and the Russia investigation. And it's like, but I'm hungry and I don't have a job. And it's like, that's right, because you're an evil, disgusting man. Living with that type of moral condemnation is not easy, right? Like, I had no idea that I was such a patriarchal overlord. I really didn't. I thought I was just one individual man. Turns out I've been oppressing women and people for thousands of years. And like, when I come into a free and open market, they cheat me. They throw me out. So I and another man, well, anyway, okay. I don't need to harp on that, but that's the way it is. So what I'm saying is that you, as an individual man, you have to be your own foundational support. You can't rely on this outside gynocentric feminized system. It only sees you as a resource, as property. It doesn't see you as an individual with individual rights. I'm sorry. That's the ideal. That's what we intended. That's what our forefathers intended. This is a testament to individual rights, to the human spirit, to freedom, and to all of our principles and ideals. But that's not how other people see it. Again, billionaire CEO, if you have a worldview that conflicts with his, he's going to use all of his resources to circumnavigate, to outflank, to do an end around on our highest principles so that his worldview is dominant because, he needs more and we need less. And that is the condemnation that we live under. So somehow, some way, you have to go MGTOW. MGTOW is not even a choice anymore. I mean, you have to do it. If you don't, then you get to go this other way, where you are subject to the vagaries of the whims and madness of people who are unwilling to work and unwilling to use logic and reason. And again, that's the system that we live under. And now it's becoming codified. Now it's becoming institutionalized, as if this is the right, normal way to go. So I think that's where we're at right now. I think that it's coming to a head because the men don't have jobs. They're revolting in the streets. You can't tax them at 100%. Once you start getting over 60%, there's not so much incentive for the men to work anymore, right? You want to now tax them at 70 and 80%? They're like, well, then we're just not going to work at all. You want to heap a level of condemnation on them for crying out, for their suffering, for saying we're being treated unfairly? You're going to say, oh, that's hate speech? You're now an anti-globalist? That's another one of the things that's going on right now. The UN Migration Pact is getting ready to, go through in certain countries, and they're pushing. And, part of the language is you're not allowed to speak out against any of this stuff, that the individual countries that sign onto this are obligated to punish the people who speak out against a globalistic world. So, as I said, these anti-freedom principles are becoming codified in law. That's how desperate, it is. And they don't work. They strip the resources and the motivation of the people in the individual countries. None of these countries voted for mass migration into their countries. No time was that put in front of them. Many of these countries have voted against these policies. I'm talking to you, Brexit. And their own politicians will not institute their own will, because their politicians are loyal to large moneyed interests, large financial institutions, not to the people of their countries, not to the values of their country. They actually manipulate that through the use of the media, which is the puppet of the political party largely. This is why they hate Trump. Trump is, that individual who isn't part of their system, who is trying to be productive. He's like a character in an Ayn Rand novel. So the people who can speak out and can express these points are being punished. So I'm very hesitant to release videos, because every time I do, I just get more I just get punished again. And I haven't said a thing against the women, and I haven't said, a single thing that was inappropriate or vulgar. I have said that under this system, the men are suffering and the systems are breaking, and that the majority of the people within this system, they delight in it. They're either intentionally ignorant of the situation, or it fulfills some basic resentful need within them. But that's pretty much what I wanted to say. So if you support this type of speech and this type of content, please go ahead and support the Howard Dare channel through a PayPal link, which I'll leave in the description. And please like, share, comment, subscribe, donate, and join me again, Howard Dare, as I plan to have more content for you. Thank you, everyone.